All right, welcome everyone to our today's SIG release meeting. This meeting adheres to the CNCF Code of Conduct, so which basically boils down to be mindful of what you said, be excellent to each other. Marco already posted the agenda in the chat, so please add yourself to the list of attendees. And also Marco volunteered to take notes for today, which is great. So thanks for that. As every time, we would like to welcome any new members or attendees at this meeting. So do we have anyone on the call who would like to say hi?
I can, though I also have an agenda item later, but I haven't been to this meeting before. But hello, everybody. My name is Laura. I am, who am I? I don't know. I am this, nowadays, I'm the CI Signal lead for the 127 release, which is relevant to some of the stuff that I'd like to talk about in this meeting later. But other than that, I usually hang out a lot at SIG multi-cluster.
Awesome. Welcome, Laura. Great to have you. Anyone else who would like to say hi? Because if not, then we can just jump over to our sub-project update. So do we have anyone from release engineering who would like to provide us an update?
Yeah, I can go forward. So let's start with the patch releases. This is something that we had last week. And as an update for that, we managed to cut them successfully. We turned off the checks to verify that images assigned. That worked. Then on Tuesday evening, after last week's meeting, we managed to get releases now. We reverted back the checks. We still didn't fix the issue to retroactively sign the images that are not signed. But I believe this is something that maybe Adolfo can provide more updates on that. Other than that, other thing that I would like to mention is that we have started implementing the CAP for open build services packages. And I created a PR that is supposed to implement a subcommand in Corel that's going to help us to generate specs and archives that we're going to use for it open build service. So Sasha has been taking a look, but if anybody is interested, please take a look and let me know if it is okay, if you have any comments or anything like that. I will leave the link in the comments.
Awesome. Thank you for this update. Adolfo, do you have anything to add?
When I was trying to join, I seem to have heard about the problem with the signatures last week, and I can give like a brief update on that. So, well, as you know, last week we ran the patch releases, and while we were running them, something still what happened is a mystery that caused all of our signature requests to be funneled to a single pod in Stickstore, and then we got rate limited, and not because the amount of signatures that we were requesting, because we didn't change anything on our side, and neither did they on their side. It was more because all the traffic hit a single pod at the same time, so that's why it happened. As a result of this, Stickstore increased a little bit the rate limit to accommodate a certain cost, but it should not happen. And on one hand, it doesn't mean that we don't have to add some resiliency to that process in the future, but anyway, that's upcoming work. But the problem was that patch releases were cut in the middle, and we're cut in a state. And this is, I think, the part that Marco mentioned, which is we had to switch down the check for the signatures from staging to release to ensure that we could release those patches, and we released the February patch releases unsigned. And we are now working on a fix. So the first iteration of the fix was ready, and in the last minute, when we were just about to promote the promoter to use it, we found that it was looking at images that were signed during staging and considering them to be completely signed, which is not the case because we had two signatures, one in staging, and we had a second one when we release. So that feature is something we need to add, because otherwise we're going to end up in another inconsistent state. And I started working on that. I returned from a trip yesterday in the very AM, but I started working on it in the night. So hopefully we will be able to get the signatures added after the release this week. And for the future, this will serve as a sign-in auditor for our images, because we will be able to run this periodically to analyze at least a bunch of images that we recently released, ensure that they are signed, and if something happened, sign them, or even this could allow us to move the signing process to make that offline or async, more precisely, as not to make the release process depend on it. Now, in order to do that, I mean, the first version that we're about to run is more of an emergency version, because we've analyzed all of the images manually, so we know those images that are promoted at what we're expecting, and so we're going to run a process to sign specifically those images. In order to use this new feature of Kpromo as an auditor in the future, we need to add another feature, which is if we find unsigned images in the registries and we want to sign them, we cannot just sign anything that we find, because if someone were to compromise those registries and upload something, we would just blindly sign them. So what we need to do is, if we find unsigned images in the production registry, before signing them, we need to go back to the manifests of the promoter and check that those images are what the community approved to be pushed to the registries. So this is kind of the near roadmap for that feature. But the first one is going to be the signing check, which is 90% complete. So hopefully we might be able to run it. And the other one that touches on the future of this feature as an auditing tool is, if you've been following the discussions, there's a bunch of changes coming to the registries, to the infra, to how we promote and replicate images. So once the dust settles on those discussions and we have a roadmap, then we can think about smarter ways to sign. So yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, cool. Thank you for this update. So do you think it makes sense to summarize the current outstanding issues and then GitHub issue that we can tackle them?
Yeah, I'll take point on that, because it's everything happened in very inconvenient times and in the emergency of the releases, so we don't have a clear document. I'll open an issue and so we can track all of this.
Cool, thanks. All right. And I think we can just jump over to the topic of Mohammed about image freeze implementation details.
All right, hi everybody. So I am now ready to start making changes to Kpromo and our release tooling to complete the image freeze work that I'm working on. So you can open the issue real quick. Cool. So we have, let's say, just over 2 weeks to sort this out. So I wasn't planning on having release problems, which is what derailed the last patch releases and a few other things. So I'm hoping that's sorted out, right? But so we have 2 ways to do this, right? So the easiest way to do it, one that requires the least engineering effort, is we'll just update the manifest, the image manifest, like the one on the screen, to remove the old registries, and we call it a day, right? And fix our tools after KubeCon. Or we update kpromo, move the files around, and make sure everything is done properly. But it needs but I need people like Adolfo and Carlos and others to be around and approve multiple pull requests for different things in a very short period of time. Ben is also working on some other things as well.
I mean, count on me. Just let me know when you start working. So what kind of changes would you like to do to the?
So if you scroll up to the top real quick, can you go down to do you see that issue that I cross-referenced? Right then, where it says I mentioned an issue yesterday, it's right at the bottom of the screen. Just before the first comment.
Sorry, which one? This one?
Yep. So that's one breaking change that we need to do. The consequence isn't that big, but it needs to be done, right? Cut a new version of kpromo and sort it out. There's a bunch of other things as well. So I have a big list of things I want to do. It's all there. I just need to get the right people to approve everything in like 3 working days and get everything sorted out.
Okay, so would you like to start with changing the manifests, and then, as you said, after KubeCon, start to do all of this work?
I mean, I'm available now, but it depends on the SIG release leads availability. If there are no fun surprises when we cut the next release, I think we've got enough time to sort everything out. If the next patch release scheduled for, I think, what, next week, it turns out to be a big mess, we'll have to defer some of the work.
Oh no, you have a comment.
Yeah, I'm curious if we can dry run the release process also and dry run image promotion.
So here's the thing, right? I think you can. Moving the folders around isn't that big of a deal. But we want to go all the way, and if you have to revert, you have to basically revert, cut new releases, and like undo like 2 or 3 PRs everywhere. Like
Yeah, my question is related to the fact that I don't think we should basically revert. That's why I'm asking for a dry run. We should be able to identify early issue or blocker before doing that.
Okay,
after
we
the
do.
fact.
So do you see where it says we have 2 options? Can you click that long commit link? That's, yeah, there we go.
So just before running each release, and we do a mock run of everything, and the other is I don't know, you should be able to kick off a mock stage and release.
Yeah, there we go. So G115 down to 123 is effectively what I need to do. And like some of that stuff is kind of hard to roll back. Like we need to cut the tools and run with it, and pick up any new work as and when things appear.
Yeah,
I think that's fine. That's fine as long as we can.
I'll get started and start asking people to merge things.
I think my main concern is related to promotion process on the new sub repo and how basically that's
in
gonna happen.
theory, there should be no changes. We're just going to move folders around and tell kpromo to pick up manifests from this new folder, and that's it. It should be a safe change, and I say that as somebody who knows a little bit about the tools. So I am hoping there are no fun surprises.
So how much time do we have if anything goes wrong during that process?
Let's see. So today is the 7th of March. the freeze has to be done. All the manifests have to be updated before the 31st of March because that's the weekend. We don't do it in the weekend. So let's say, for argument's sake, that we started merging all pull requests. We'd have to merge it on the 20th. Let's say the week commencing the 20th, right? So we've got an entire week to merge everything and see how things look like. If we screw up something and we have to roll back, we've probably got another 4 days to undo everything and go back to that first idea of just updating manifests only.
Yeah, so to me it sounds reasonable. So, yeah.
Just keep in mind that the promoter runs not just for the Kubernetes releases. So there are other images getting promoted constantly.
Oh, that's the other thing. I'm hoping no other sub-projects planning on releasing anything towards the end of the month. So I can kick the freeze in earlier than expected.
Okay, I mean, sounds fun by me. I can be there to review.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, just let me know a little bit in advance so that it doesn't cut me in the middle of meetings or whatever. And yeah,
Sounds good.
we'll
I'll
together.
stage everything for review this week, and then we can merge things next week and cut tools and stuff.
Awesome. Looks like we reached consensus on this topic. Do we have any other topics regarding the release engineering subproject? Because if not, then we can just jump over to the release team. Do we have anyone from the release team who would like to provide us an update on the current cycle?
I can, there's not much of an update at this point. Things are still kind of on autopilot. As we move closer to code freeze, I'll have a more interesting update, you know, within a couple weeks of that. But other than that, I'll pass to Laura for the topic that she wanted to discuss.
Thanks. So I'll segue into my bullet point. Again, hi, everybody. My name is Laura. I'm the CI signal lead for this release, and I previously have shadowed on releases in this role in 125 and enhancements in 124. So I bring that up because I'm kind of coming from the I don't know, just from the release team side of things and not necessarily from SIG Release, and have all the history on everything. But what I wanted to talk about today was two things that I've observed as the CI signal shadow and lead. That's part of the responsibilities for the CI signal sub team that I want to get either clarification or confirm that we should continue to proceed doing them, and if we decide not to, what the process might be to do that. So the two things is about the CI signal report, and the other one is about the SIG release RELEng dashboards and pre-submit dashboards and the monitoring responsibilities for the CI signal subteam about those. So if either of those things are things I shouldn't bring up here, or like the wrong people are here, feel free to interrupt me at any time, but I'll just talk about them in order. So the CI signal report is a weekly email blast that is sent out to the Kate's dev list that includes a couple different things. One is a generated report. There's a link in here of what that looks like that pulls out from a GitHub project board and from test grid some stats about what the current situation is. So you can see it's this type of information about the GitHub report. And if you scroll down a little bit, the test grid report part of it shows test grid stats that are pulled off of it. It so happens that this time around, the tool that generates this needed some maintenance because the GitHub API changed. So before I update all the documentation and train the shadows on it, I wanted to make sure that this report, in particular, this output piece, is still useful to attach to this email and that it's something that we still want to maintain. It probably is also worth noting that the template which is effectively the same as what's in the GitHub report part, but in the actual email itself. So personally, I just feel like there's a lot of duplication of content here, and I wanted to query SIG release, especially people who might have some more history here, if we think that this part of the report is useful. Or how to find out if it is or it isn't and make a decision regarding that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I generally think that general notification emails are likely to get missed. On the other side, we have the same issue with the usual test script mails. I personally think that the current approach of opening an issue about if any job fails over a period of time or consistently, then and pull in the folks who are actually responsible for the job is the right way to do it. Because, for example, what means flaky, right? Flaky can mean that it's just a temporary issue or something like this. Then nobody will do anything, and it will go green again. And if everything is flaky, then we have to get a more general look at those tests probably. I think it would be good. We could start by drafting a mail on KDev to get more feedback about the email, to get input from folks if they think it's useful or not. And if we think it's too much work to automate it completely away or maintain it over a period of time, then we can consider deprecating the mail and going other path, right?
Yeah, and to that point, the CI Signal subteam expends a lot of energy finding the specific people who can help with specific issues. Yeah, and so that is, as that has become, I guess, more efficient, more part of the CI Signal responsibilities, that gap between how useful this type of general mailing is may have widened. So yeah, I think probably everybody here knows, but there's a lot of direct contact, I guess, about trying to solve these things within the timelines and current events of the release by the CI Signal subteam. So that's another reason why this feels less useful these days.
Yeah, and I assume it's a tool that we have created for ourselves, for the community. And if we feel that it's not useful at all, then we can just go ahead and do it differently or something like this. Because I don't think that this mail or this report was something like a requirement from a third party or something like this, right?
Yeah, and can maybe anybody comment, I'm sure it's evolved over time, but would we say that the audience for this entire email blast, so not even just this report, but that email blast goes out to Kate's dev entirely, is it for the purposes of branch release management or SIG release leads or someone else in SIG release to use? Is it kind of the purpose to like keep general Kate's dev updated about what's going on? Because I feel like that helps inform me who or at what level or with what weight I should analyze a survey data of like, is this useful to you? What was kind of the intention of this, and is there any history to know there?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the motivation was first to give a summary to the release managers before we got the releases. And then it got expanded. So this has been like the report is recent. It's not that it has been there for years.
Okay.
I think we've had it like for what, 2 releases or so, mailing out. And then
I only know that we've had it for at least 1 year because it was there when I was a CI Shadow, which was the top.
And it was already there, like for 1 year.
Yeah, or it was there then, and seemed like it had been there for a release at least.
Okay.
There were old versions of it not generated from the tool that I think were manually created, like
Exactly.
going back to like 1.13. So the tool was an effort to try to make that more automated and less like human intensive.
I see.
Yeah, and it finally got expanded so that trying to inform, well, the stakeholders of the tests that they're failing or whatever. But as Sasha said, there's some duplication between test grid emails and this one. And I don't have a, I think also asking would be kind of like, we've been running this tool for a while, and do you find it useful now?
So for release management, I don't think we would require the email because we actively pull the data from the dashboards before cutting a release, which is ad hoc. Yeah. And we also have the CI signal go, no go before every minor release, right?
Right. Okay, cool. That's interesting. Just like from the ground, I think it somehow became both more automated and more work because we made this tool, but then there's still like the template and the way that we fill out still involves a lot of curation ultimately. So it didn't totally absolve that. And then there was a ticket to automate it entirely and I guess take away the curation part, but that seems to have got stalled and then like died life cycle rotten on the issue and stuff. So I don't think that that's like likely anytime soon. So, okay, that's interesting. And I think the actionable takeaway from this is it sounds like we still have some interest in at least polling a little bit to see how useful this is to general K8s dev. So I can figure out a way to do that and then come back here and give you more data to decide if the process can really change.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. And then my other topic is another thing that's in the CI Signal handbook for the responsibilities for the CI Signal subteam is to monitor the SIG Release RELEng dashboards and the pre-submits dashboards. But in my experience, that's not something that the CI Signal team is doing much, especially compared to watching master informing and master blocking. And so I wanted to figure out if this is the group to ask what the overlap and priority of those is for the purposes of CI Signal, which is to hunt release, like raise the signal, I guess, of release blocking flakes early. And if it's still important for us to be watching and leave in the handbook or not.
So my view on that one is, it is the responsibility of release managers to ensure that those tests are passing, and when they read, we absolutely need to look at them, to evaluate them constantly, to see them if they still apply and all of that. But I also think, since those are touching on release tooling and repos, I think in order to like form the complete picture of CI Signal for a release, I think it's useful. But I mean, it's a thing that the CI Signal team should be looking at, but I certainly would like to hear what others think.
To put it the other way around, I think the only dashboards which are interesting for CI Signal are SIG Release Master blocking, informing, and the release branches blocking and informing, right?
So those are the ones that either through those are effectively the only ones that we watch and have watched for several releases. But the handbook says we should also be watching the RELEng, SIG RELEng, and pre-submits, SIG Release RELEng and pre-submits. And so I don't want to be dropping the ball if that's supposed to be happening, or if that responsibility is already covered elsewhere and it's not actually something CI Signal subteam should be working on, then I want to make that clear. So in the handbook and to my shadows.
Yeah, so it feels to me that we have to update the handbook to reflect the current state. That we don't have to put more efforts on CI Signal side to watch the release engineering dashboards as well as the pre-submits. But maybe we can find out why we added this in the maybe as part of a bigger change to the handbook.
Mhm.
Maybe there was a different purpose on that.
Yeah, maybe. I guess what Adolfo was saying was that it does hurt the release branch process if those have failures because they monitor some tools. So I can see how that would affect the ability to release. So yeah, maybe it was to try and like raise that earlier, but I think if the release branch subteam or the release branch managers are also looking at that, then that's a case of where it doesn't also need to be an explicit responsibility of CI Signal, which arguably doesn't have the same expertise and would be triaging it over to the release branch managers anyways.
Yeah, maybe we can add it as an action item in the release cut issue. The release managers take a look at that dashboard before cutting the release. That might be a good solution to this.
Yeah, sounds great.
Which we should be doing already, right?
Yeah, we should. But I mean, sometimes we see that we can't cut releases because of something, but yeah, I mean, catching those issues with pre-submits or periodics on the release engineering dashboard is like, yeah, unlikely. So
Got it.
I don't think we have to duplicate the work for release engineering and CI Signal, so we can separate the concerns that release engineering can watch their jobs and CI Signal just watches the main master and release branch jobs. Even for the release branch jobs, usually CI Signal does not actually monitor them, right? It's more about the current release branch.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I will, for this one, I'll plan to make some updates to the handbook and make sure someone from SIG Release is on the PR to see it as well.
Cool, thank you.
Great, thank you for answering all my questions.
Awesome. Do we have anything else regarding the release team? Because if not, then we can jump over to the open discussions. And Joseph, you have an update on KubeCon.
Yeah, I was just really raising awareness that the issue for reserving a table for the SIG meet and greet is now open, and that's happening on Friday afternoon from 12:30 to 2:30. And wanted to see if we want to man. So I was just raising that up. And then the second thing I was raising is we just got the CFP open yesterday for the contributor summit. And obviously the focus with the content on that is things that are interesting to other SIGs. I know we have a lot going on with some of the recent releases, so it may be something we may want to do, submitting a talk. I know we also have reserved time during the conference, but this would be a targeted audience. So potentially something we would consider. So I was really just raising an awareness to the SIG. If we want to participate in either of the contributor summit day, the CFP, as well as do we want to man a table at the meet and greet?
Yeah, so my personal opinion is that it would be awesome to have another meet and greet like we had in Detroit. I personally just joined KubeCon for Tuesday to Thursday because of budgeting limitations, let's call it that way. But hey, if you think that it's worth just doing a meeting on Friday, then I'm happy to. I mean, we will probably be able to stream it again, so then I can join virtually. So
Sasha, the Friday thing is a little bit more informal. It's kind of more. I think the last few ones have been more just team members from the release team. I noticed it tends to be more of like if someone does have questions about release team, but I think it tends to be just more of a social event, if anything. We'll still maintain. There's space reserved for us on the either contributor summit day or on Tuesday for breakouts, however we decide we want to do. So that I think we still plan to do that dedicated meeting.
Yeah, sounds great. So then we can aim for the dedicated meeting on Tuesday somehow and do it. The CFP is also open for not only for meetings, right? It's also for proposing topics, like doing a
it's
SIG
little
release
bit
onboarding.
broader. Yeah, that one would be more like we actually have like a room where we're giving talks. I think the last time, I believe, we had a talk that was related to some of the recent changes with the enhancement team, for example, and how they were doing ingesting things. I think if I looked at what some of the activities that we currently have, I think with some of the recent, things happening with our release testing, that could be an interesting topic for the broader groups because there may be questions that are targeted towards them. So I think it could be any broad topic. We could do a very deep dive on things if we wanted to or not. But it's more geared towards active SIGs, active contributors, individuals in that space to meet them where they're at versus kind of like SIG release that we have during KubeCon. It's kind of like for the whole community.
Awesome. So I can personally take care of requesting the meeting room. And I think we can just submit more. If anyone is on the call or watches the recording who wants to propose anything in conjunction to SIG release, then just feel free and propose it for the contributor summit.
Sounds good.
Awesome. And by the way, we also have the SIG release introduction talk from Marco and Veronica at KubeCon directly. All right. Anything else regarding KubeCon Contributor Summit? Or any other last minute topic? Because if not, then I will give you 5 minutes back. Thanks y'all for attending. Enjoy the rest of the day and see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.